Hello, hello. Oi, oi, Papa Bean. How are you today? I'm doing well. I hope it's a good wine. There's all different varieties. Got some cooking wine on my shelf behind me. I don't know that I'd like to be like that. But I'm doing well. Just reading a book that I've read before, but this time following it as an exercise. Yeah. I agree. I'm relearning for the 100th time about context-free grammars. It's stuff that is tricky to comprehend, so I like going over it again and again. Oh, awesome. Yeah, so I'm writing an interpreter for another language in TypeScript. Have you done much JavaScript? Mm-hmm. Hmm. Gotcha. And what are you working on with TypeScript? Do you have something in mind, or you just want to learn the language? Cool, cool. And have you used another language that is statically typed? Or is this the first time? Because it's a very different world. It can be quite daunting. Excuse me. Okay, cool. Me too, actually. A long time ago. Many, many years. I learned Java. And this book is actually in Java, but I've decided to do it in TypeScript instead because I like TypeScript. I like JavaScript. So I don't think there's any code until later in this chapter. Maybe I can go back to the previous chapter. Uh-oh, what did I do? Yeah, I think I have to go way up here. Yeah, so like here in scanner, add token. So yeah, for example here, this is the code in the book, and I've decided to do it in TypeScript instead. It's different. I really dislike having to use the word this so often. It's everywhere, but having fun. And, you know, some things are a little different. Like, things are not keywords. The author uses an array list, or sorry, a hash map. So when you use .get on something that's not there, you get null back. But in JavaScript, you can simplify that. So it's like, so far, fun little challenges like that. I don't think, kind of by definition, an interpreter doesn't use all the crazy language features. So I don't expect the conversion to be all that wild. I don't expect to have to use, like, you know, I don't think there will be any multi-threaded stuff, so I won't have to convert that to JavaScript async. Yeah, and that's kind of the point. It's more precise, and the strictness, you know, the word strict gets a bad rap, but it makes sure that you do things right. So, like, even though you can see this is token type here is, oh, let me find it again. It's an enum, and I gave it a value of a type string. But if I type if I type the value of it here, it'll tell me it's not assignable to that. It's enforcing a rule that doesn't actually exist in the JavaScript when it's compiled. But here it tells me that this is not right. And so it keeps me from doing anything silly, which in something like an interpreter, which is such a formal system, really, really helps. And because of that strictness, so like it applies that strictness, but because it applies that strictness, it's able to build a more rigid view, more specific view of your code. Right. So it gives humans, if humans are reviewing stuff, it makes it easier to spot errors. But I think the real benefit, I shouldn't say they're all benefits, but compiling, it does do a good job of compiling, but normally you figure out the error before you get to compiling, because of this. It's able to build a more specific view of your code than normal JavaScript interpreters. So like JavaScript can't know without evaluating certain parts of your code what type of a variable will be, for example. But TypeScript, because it applies these rules, it knows that this second parameter has to be of type number. And so you can see that it's able to give more specific errors because of that, because it can build a more specific, here's a problem. So first it can't find the name problem. Well, what if I make that a string so it doesn't have to find a name? Well, now it knows that this should be an error. I don't know why it's not figuring out it's an error. Oh, because that particular thing is allowed to be any value. Hold on, let me pick another thing. If I make this, then this is a tool, right? This string right here saying argument of type problem is not assignable. That's a tool that my text editor is running behind the scenes that's using the information that TypeScript is able to glean. So I think that's, for me, the biggest benefit, is that it allows the tools that I'm using to program to be more powerful, not just that it makes it easier to read for humans, because humans are often, humans have biases and blind spots, but there's a lot of verbosity in TypeScript, which I might not recommend for human readers. Let me find an example. Like this, for example. These all have initializers. So why would I, excuse me. Here, for example, like a human could read this and know that tokens is going to be an array of token, right? You don't actually need this. But if I take this out, you can see that at the bottom of my screen, it gives it a type of any. So any value could go in here. And if later I made that mistake, a human might catch it, but it's even cooler that my tool would catch it. So here, let's try to push into this a number. It says it's not assignable to parameter of type token, because it's pushing into an array of token. But if I get rid of this, then that's no longer an error, right? So this is what a human might not notice. I mean, likely they would. So anyways, okay, I'm done ranting. So I wonder how, if you don't have anything specific in mind you're going to build, what are you what do you think you'll build? Or how are you going to go about learning? That's what I'm asking. Normally I pick a project when I want to learn something, which is why I really like this book. It's about, the whole book is making a project with you. Where am I here? I don't know. Oh, nice. Yeah, so this is actually a React project. I suggest, if you haven't found it yet, the npx create React app template TypeScript. And that actually just gives you everything you need for TypeScript, which is really, really helpful for getting started. That's exactly how I started my project here. Because just setting up TypeScript can be kind of a hassle, especially if you're not familiar with it. And what text editor do you use? This is Emacs, so okay, cool. So VS Code. TypeScript is a Microsoft product and VS Code is a Microsoft product. They work really well together. All sorts of fancy tools. You are well on your way. Have you done a lot of React before? Okay. Have you used any other component libraries? Because you might be giving yourself a double challenge. Okay. You might be giving yourself a pretty tough uphill battle to learn both TypeScript and React at the same time. For example, understanding which errors are TypeScript errors and which errors are React errors. But maybe you're a much better programmer than me, and you won't have any errors. I'm just getting back to where I was in this chapter. Yeah. Also, React has built-in TypeScript stuff, and that might be confusing. You know, I would suggest to you, with knowing nothing about you, almost nothing about you, that you might try a React tutorial alone without TypeScript first, and then come back and apply, do the same thing or do a different thing with TypeScript. For example, here I'll give you an example. Is React uses the word props all over the place, and since you have some programming experience, you might translate that to in your head to properties. And in JavaScript, objects have properties. Every object has a property, but props has a really specific meaning in React. It refers to the stuff that you put, variables or arguments that you pass into a component. I haven't done any React in here yet, but for example, even though in HTML these things are referred to as attributes, in React they're referred to as props. So you'll likely, if you see, or when you see TypeScript errors, they will likely relate to props, but referring to attributes. I find that very confusing. But on the other hand, all of programming is traps like that, right? Jargon is impenetrable. So if you've made it this far, I'm sure you'll make it to the next step. And if I can answer any specific questions, I would be happy to. I'm definitely not a TypeScript or a React expert, but I do use them for work, so should be able to yeah, I think that intuition is right. I think it's just the beginning. Just the very beginning has some traps for jargon and React is a complicated system. Like it's not complicated to work with. I'm not trying to say that you'll have a problem, but React itself has a lot of really complex stuff going on inside of it. Same for TypeScript. It's not super difficult to get started with TypeScript, but when you see an error in TypeScript, it can get absolutely mind-boggling, especially if you're trying to do anything fancy. I'm really not doing anything fancy in this project at all. You can see a lot of these things don't even have types, although, you know, this is able to figure out that this is alpha function returns a Boolean. It can figure that out just by analyzing the internals of it. It's able to derive that. Yeah, so the problem is that you don't have to do fancy stuff, but React actually does fancy stuff. Here's a good example. If you want to, so okay, here's an article. Oh gosh, the entire dark mode on this browser is not great. You have these props, right? And you're going to be constantly using props in React. They're like the, you know, central mechanism in React for passing data. There are others now, but they're the base ones that you pass attributes, just like you do in HTML. You pass props down. Now, trying to figure out how to type, how to define or describe the type of these things, of these props, can be crazy, especially when you want to say what type of thing can be passed as a child of that component. And there's all sorts of complications, you know, as lying wait as traps there, lying in wait as traps. So React has this thing called react.fc to help you do that, to help you give types to your component. But React.fc itself is a complicated type. I wonder if we can see some of it here. So this author of this article, I've read this article before, is suggesting that this type with this craziness in it, for example, is better than this one. I think I'm not reading it right, but let's just say for the sake of my point that that's what the author is saying. Is that, you know, this that React gives you is like this. If you do something wrong in here, you are subject of all the fanciness and complexity inside of yeah, I've made my point. Maybe not well, but I said all the things that have to do with my point. So I've lost this browser is messing with my head. Give me my chat back. Oh my gosh, look at this. So this browser I'm using is called Nixt, and it shares all of the it shares the buffers with all the different windows, and I don't know how to switch buffers effectively yet. But if you try to go like to the next buffer, then it steals it from the other window that has it on it. How do I switch buffer? I can't even see this. Switch using fuzzy completion, GB. Okay, let me try that. GB. It doesn't seem to do anything. GB. Yeah, unless it's off my screen here, I don't see it doing anything. Fuzzy switch buffer list buffers. chat. Okay, we're back. And you're picking up what I'm putting down. Good. So yeah, I'm not trying to be like a buzzkill. I think you should go for it. Definitely. If I haven't scared you so far, then you should definitely go for it. And of course, every error is a learning opportunity, right? Yeah. I mean, those are kind of my chief complaints about TypeScript and React themselves, let alone together, is that React claims that it's super simple and has pretty good documentation, but you'll have to like learn the innards of React in order to understand that documentation. Oh, I don't even think that much. I think if you do one thing with React, you know, even like a basic to-do tutorial, honestly, that's enough. Because my point is that learning what React errors look like and what the words, you know, the jargon used in those errors versus what TypeScript errors look like. Yeah. No, I don't think you need to go crazy. Unless you're talking about really small projects like, you know, single code pen size projects, then that's maybe a good idea. Especially since you said you've used statically typed languages before. Okay, cool. That's a good way to do projects. I love CodePen. But since you've used a statically typed language before, I think, you know, it won't be all Greek to you. Or insert language that you don't know, if you know Greek. Yeah, actually, interestingly, TypeScript is different from, yeah, TypeScript is different from like the type systems of Java and C++ in some interesting ways. So if you try to get fancy with types, you might need to unlearn some stuff. But I think in a fun way, because it's a very different system. Or not very different, but the core of it is different. How it builds out from that core is different. So when you try to do, you know, generics and things, and yeah, it's really interesting when you get to the innards of it. I don't know enough really to speak on it. But for example, the way that it is able to figure out stuff, like if Java had been written in a different way, the Java TypeScript type system, you wouldn't need to define every return type. And TypeScript, as a newer system, decided to go that way. It can figure out what you are trying to return, what type you are trying to return, even though you don't describe it. Or you don't explicitly state it. And so for it to be able to do that, it does things in a bit of a different way than Java or C++ do types. if I was a little bit further along, yeah, Angular is a lot. Is there something that is there something that I guess my question is why Angular? Why is Angular your long-term goal? Not that it's a bad one. Got it. That is a really good reason to learn it. We love jobs. We love jobs. I'm thinking about what if I switch gears. I was going to do some React and TypeScript. That's why I made this project in React. I haven't done any of that yet. Thinking about what if I switch gears and start doing that while you're hanging out. Let me think about that. What would I do? So I'm writing an interpreter for a language. So, you know, you have like a REPL. I was thinking about making a REPL or a code editor on a web page that you could run this language. It's not my language, obviously, it's the language of the author, but it'll be my interpreter for that language at least. And so I thought, why don't I make that all in React? I haven't thought a whole ton about what that will look like, but I suppose there's no time like the present. So I think probably gonna get rid of most of this stuff. Do I care about anything in here? I can leave all that. That's fine. So I have an app, and I will probably want just a div or a text area. Let's say just a div for now. That is your code goes here. I was gonna make an input after that. I forget what the basic type for input is. Is it just input like text? Or maybe it's text? Oh, lost my tabs. The name will be input? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what a good name for this is. It's just the input. It's where you type. Where you type. And the value, I don't know. I don't know at all. I guess we'll start at blank. Then we can make a, what's it called? Starts with a P. The text that is there before you type anything. Wow. Having trouble, placeholder. Context switching to HTML. Placeholder is write some code here. And this is actually your output will appear here. This sort of thing. I suppose I can... Oh, something failed. What failed already? Just failed to parse a file. Hmm. Syntax error. Adjacent JSX elements. What does this say? Adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. Ah. Did you want a JSX fragment? Hey, that's a great error message. Good job, React. And yes, I did want a fragment like that. Are you happy now? I think this test is still going to fail because it doesn't find this text. Do I want to write tests for my UI? Do I care that much about it? I think I care a lot less about my UI than I do my interpreter itself, which I have been writing tests for. So let me just get rid of this file and not worry about it too much. And then I'll have to start the server, which I think is run dev. No, just npm start. npm start to run the development server. Oh, it even opened a browser for me. But then it has compiler errors. Whoa, I have a bunch of errors that I never saw. I don't know how I never saw these errors. Let me bring this over to here. So I'm in dark mode now. Let me turn that off. You can see that it actually has the stuff behind it. This is like a modal window here. And if I close it, then these are actually rendered correctly. Although it's not letting me type anything in. I don't know why it's not letting me type anything in. That's interesting. Okay, but maybe we should fix these problems first. How many are there? Does it say? It doesn't say how many. But this is really interesting. So the TypeScript interpreter or the TypeScript evaluator that React is using, or the React scripts is using, must be different from the one that my text editor is using, because it did not specify these things. Very interesting. Okay. Let me come here and try to fix these in order really quick. So interpreter.ts doesn't like this. Okay. I wonder how my tests were passing with these failures. But okay, I'm glad to see that this is working. Like that my text editor did catch these. I just didn't look anywhere to find it. I wonder if it would show in here. No, it doesn't really show any sort of error. Like VS Code will show you that there's an error here. If you look at this, the tree view. So let me look at scanner, the constructor. It does take 2 arguments. This does not take any arguments. I guess my test must be using that correctly, but maybe I don't have a proper test for it here. I guess this test doesn't catch that problem because it doesn't figure out any, there's no errors, I guess. Let me try making a failing test for this. Interpreter runs a program with an error. So what's an error? An error would be like some random characters. Oh, I also don't have any expect in here. But I did get a failure in my test. Right. So I have no expectations after this. I guess I could, on my interpreter, I have had error equal false. So I can expect that interpreter dot add error is true. And here I can expect it to be false. And now I have this failing test, so I can go fix it in my scanner, or sorry, in my interpreter, that this argument should actually go here, and the test pass again, right? It's still running console.error. Probably want to fix that because I don't want my test suite muddled by all those correct error messages. So how did I do that in my... I have a test where I mock console.log. Which test is it? Right here. Okay. So I can do this. In my interpreter test, and say mock console.error, so we don't print expected errors. And we should probably change this name to console error mock. And I think we should not get, yeah, we don't get those prints anymore. That's nice. And what about here? Are we still getting errors? There are likely way more errors. Okay. In scanner.ts46, let me go to the top one. It's usually advisable to start at the top. So these are TypeScript errors, by the way, Papa Bean. These are not JavaScript errors. You probably figured that out because it's the same. Yeah, it says TS here, and it's talking about types. Yeah. Okay. And npm start actually runs this check for you automatically when you start the development server with npm start, which is really nice. Well, definitely feel free to ask any questions. I know I'm going fast, but it was kind of a sidetrack to the direction I wanted to take it in. So I kind of thought, let me bang these out, but okay. Also, my code, like, I haven't explained to you what my code is doing at all. So, argument of type null is not assignable to parameter of type this. So that means that, like, this new token is a type that I've defined somewhere. Let me get rid of this browser again. So if I go here to scanner.ts, what line was that? It's bit 57. This is not correct. So literal here, I've said in this function, I've said literal can be an object or it can be null, and it defaults to null. And here, tokens, or the new token constructor, you can see that third argument literal is only allowed to be object. So I can change that. If I go to the definition here, I can change this to be allowed to be null. And that was all the rest of the issues. So of course I had to know that this was acceptable for me. And I know that it's acceptable only because the book told me that null is allowed there. In Java, you'll remember that if you make anything that is a complex object, not an atomic object in Java, you can give it null anywhere. That's not the case for TypeScript. If you say that something has to be an object, you can't then give it null. So here I'm saying null is an acceptable value for this thing, which makes this actually curious, because I wonder if this prints out null now. Let me add that to my test. So toString I'm already testing. Let me say toString with null literal. Will this print out null? Yes, okay, that works fine. Okay, let me commit all that business. New test. Cool. I'll be here. All right, new test for an error. That's good. I moved this argument to the right place. Good. New test. That change. Okay, cool. What did I do? Add tests and fix. Let's say fix TS issues and add tests to catch them. Okay. All right, so now what is this? You run on 3000? Okay. So now, what am I thinking? I'm thinking you write some code here and then hit enter and it will run an output here. I already have interpreter dot run. Oh, hello. Thank you for the dancing panda. Brightens my day. Oh, nice. What are you usually running? Some Linux? Or are you running a Hackintosh? Is that what they call it these days? Gotcha. I like that idea. I don't know if it's still a thing with the new hardware. With the ARM chips. If you can still do it. Like effectively. Yeah. I'm running, this is Pop! OS right now. Nice. It's a good way to be. Give yourself the space. Yeah, I highly suggest Pop! OS. I'm running 21. It might be 10 now. I think I just upgraded to 21.10. I also highly suggest virtual machines if you can afford the RAM. All right, so I'm thinking write some code. It will run and appear here. Maybe it'll also print into there what you typed. So get rid of this, get rid of this, we have some more room to work. And we have app.css, app.css. What's in here? A load of GUI, don't need any of this. Okay. Yeah. It's probably easier, you know. Well, you know, there are also web things like you mentioned CodePen. There's Code Sandbox. Code Sandbox, and that gives you like a TypeScript environment all set up. I think in a slightly better way than CodePen does. Less streamlined, but more flexible, I guess. So we want to have a main that is center aligned. So before we do that, why don't we say HTML body, padding 0, margin 0. Are you just gonna error all the time? Okay. And display flex? Maybe that's not a good idea. Let me do this in a different place. Give it height 100%. Nice. Awesome. Are you in school right now, or do you have a non-programming career? We'll say main has a height of 100% and a width of 100% as well, but it'll be our flex box. Okay, cool. I'm curious about what odd tech jobs are. Display, flex, align. Oh, I always forget which one to use. Flex direction is column. Align items. Okay. What kind of stuff on Twitch? Like helping out with people's channels, that kind of thing? Okay, cool. Well, if you have any suggestions for my stream, I'm happy to hear it. Obviously, there's a few glaring graphic design problems with the top area of the screen right now and how my camera is placed. They were better before, I promise. But I'm always happy for feedback. I know that my friends and coworkers who are designers, yeah, can't figure out, or not can't figure out, can't resist observing problems. Not that they can't resist saying them, but they can't resist seeing them. Like you can't help but see the issues once you know the stuff, right? I guess for me it would be like looking at bad code, or you can't help but see it. Yeah. Justify content, I think, is since we're in column, it's the main axis, and we want that to be start. Content, what is it? What are the values here? I don't remember what is a valid. Justify content CSS. Is it just start? Flex start. Yeah, I feel that. I totally feel that. It's a crazy world, and like, it's crazy how much of a gap there is. Oh, hey, Planet. There's crazy how much of a gap there is between being computer literate and being programming literate. That gap is kind of wild. Oh, hey, well, I highly suggest this this website, Planet. craftinginterpreters.com. Highly suggest it. That's the book that I'm working on right now. And the book's written in Java, but I've been doing it in TypeScript. Okay, so now we need to wrap this stuff in a main. Okay, so centering has worked. Success. So Papa, the way that I'm doing this, you probably noticed already, but none of this is an overlay. This is 100% my operating system, which I'm really, really happy about and really proud of, because it means that I don't have to constantly be managing OBS. Okay, so the cool thing about Pop is that it comes with a, I don't know, VLang Planet. I've never heard of that. Pop! OS comes with a tiling thing. I'm not gonna untile it right now, but it comes with a tiling system. So when I make a new window, it pops into this grid, and then you can make it have gaps. And then you pick a nice background, and then you get all this craziness for free. And then I have a few other things like hiding all of the window titles, just to take up less stuff. And then I installed an extension to hide this top bar when my mouse is not near it. But the problem is that it was working up until I just upgraded the operating system, and then they used a GNOME. They Pop! OS shell is what the windowing system is. They upgraded to using GNOME 40, and I guess it broke where previously this would not take up space, and so these would all be aligned to the top, plus the gap that you see at the bottom. But now it's all kind of awkward. It's just a little awkward. Okay, it's like a C style, Rust style language that transpiles to C and then compiles. I see. Okay, cool. And is that, you said you're trying to learn it? Is that part of your effort to make a language, or is that a different effort? I don't know robot C, but I have done robotics in C. Oh, 3DS. Very cool. Find a good game idea? Well, have you made any games yet? Planet? Like, I don't mean to be rude, but have you ever made a game? Okay, cool. I was gonna say if you have not made a game before, then thinking of a game idea is not very important, but it sounds like you're off to the races. It was that, I'm gonna take a guess. I'll guess that it was you said it was in C++. It was that you were using a built-in, like a reserved word for your template name. That's my guess. Oh, that sucks. Were you okay? Were you using like a game engine or something? Okay, so it's somebody's engine had a problem with a certain thing you were doing. Okay, I want to give this some margin. So we'll say margin to rem. Oh gosh, no. Adding. And what are these things? This is output, and this is, or interpreter output. And this is interpreter input. Yeah, I decided to switch to that. I mean, I've got a whole book telling me how to make the language. Not really a big deal there. Oh, where's this extra stuff coming from? I don't think that's necessary. You provided a value prop to a form field without an on-change handler. This will render a read-only field. Oh, okay. I don't want that. Where is this extra business coming from? What even is this element? Oh, main. Main is with 100%. And why is that? Why is that bigger than here? And also, why do I have this div ID root? Where's that from? I don't want that. Oh, gross. I hate this in React, how it has an index.html that it shoves everything into. Where even is this? Public? Index.html? You're like, you can't figure everything out just by looking at your React code. Okay. I don't want this. Is there any way to not do this? I guess I can just change this to my main. Bum, 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 bum. And then get rid of this main. Okay. So where did my padding go now? Oh, it's still there. Now, where is my extra stuff? Gosh, I don't understand CSS ever. Maybe I don't need with 100% here. Okay. That will work. Maybe I don't need height 100% here. Okay, that's better. I do want my interpreter output and interpreter input to be with 100%, so okay. Maybe they don't need to be that. Whatever. Okay, I like that they are aligned. What else do I want? I think I want interpreter output to have a set height and to overflow, or to always have a scroll bar. Okay. Kind of looks like crap in dark mode. Still kind of looks like crap. Where is... It seems like there's a ton of extra CSS here. Where's all that coming from? Right? Like, this doesn't look normal. Does it? No, I guess that's all normal. Weird. I wonder if it's my dark mode thing. It's been making some of my web pages look weird. Okay, so now when I type something in here and hit enter, I want it to appear up here. And then evaluate and also print. So how do I do that? I think I need an... Oh man. There's a couple ways to do that. I could get a ref to it, or I could do an on change. I think I'll need a ref anyways because I want to handle the return key being hit. It's been a while. My friend input. Let's do on change. And we'll say set value, or I think we have to say event. Oh gosh, my little screen, this is all getting quite small. Let me give this some new lines. Event.target.value, and we'll pass that to set value use state. Give us some more space here. Const value set value equals a use state of string. And then what are we going to end up doing with that value? I think what we're going to do, you're saying you're just never used? Yeah. I think what we will do is also, oh, there's a loud noise behind me. I don't know if you heard that. Also say on key down. We're also going to need a ref for this thing anyways. ref equals ref. I'm not very good at refs, and I might need to eat something before I have the energy to figure this out. But the main goal is that when I hit enter while I'm focused on this input, it should take the value, run it through the interpreter, append that to the output, and then clear the input. That's the main idea. And I think to do that, I'm going to need a ref because I'll need to manage the value of the input while the user is typing it, which is something when you do like, yeah, React doesn't love when you do that. Otherwise, unless you use refs. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but that's just the way it is generally. So first we need to get a ref. Yeah, so what a ref is a reference. Again, here's that jargon, like ref has a really specific meaning. Ref is a reference to the HTML element in the actual DOM. So it's like you were using vanilla JavaScript inside React, which is tricky because then you're walking over the feet of what React is trying to do for you, all the special things that React tries to do for you. So I think I need to say const input ref set input ref. I think this is how this works. And then in here, I can say set input. Now I need to do use effect and make sure that the ref is set. So use effect. I'm mistyping lots of things. That tells me that it's time for some lunch or dinner. Might be dinner. Okay. So first, if input ref dot current is not there, then don't do anything. Otherwise, we'll say I want to get a thing, the element instead of the ref. So I don't have to keep typing current everywhere. Okay. L input dot add event listener e down. I'm gonna have to remember how to get the enter key. I haven't done that in a minute. And we're gonna want to remove this so I'll explain what I'm doing in a second. We're gonna want to remove this event listener when this element is cleaned up. And so I need to, in order to remove that specific listener, the enter listener, I need to hold a reference to it. Let me just log for now. Key down. I need to hold a reference to that exact listener so that I can clean up that exact listener. L input dot remove event listener key down, enter listener. Okay. So what? So buttons. Key down, and I can also test in here that value is working. Key down with value. Okay, there's no way that that doesn't have a bunch of errors. Can't find use state. Huh. I wonder why my TypeScript thing is not working this. How do I feel about using Vim? Vim's awesome. I do not use Vim. This is Emacs, specifically Doom Emacs. Doom. Which is just a configuration of one person. But I use Vim keys. So you'll see me go, you know, right now I'm in normal mode. So I'm using HJKL to move around. 5J, 5K. And then insert mode, back to normal mode. So I'm a big fan of Vim. I've never actually used it. I've never used like a modern Vim. I use VI all the time on servers and stuff, but never Vim. Yeah, I use the Vim Vim plugin for VS Code as well when I have to use VS Code. I love it. I think it's the best. Yeah, it's really cool. I actually have a really one of my coworkers wanted to learn Vim and found a really good article about it. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. I highly suggest that set of articles. I just glanced through them, but they really get they distill the power and the usefulness of different things. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get this working. Just what I've done so far, just get rid of these bugs, and then I think I'll have to take a break for some food. I'll probably turn off this stream. Yeah, optimization is awesome. I wouldn't say I'm all about it, but definitely Vim keys I find really helpful on a day-to-day basis. You've actually seen me do several macros if you've been watching, and so like when you constantly have to do certain things in code, and you're gonna have to do them about 50 times. So if you can describe them with keystrokes in Vim will just do the next 49 times for you. So like, let's say I wanted to translate all of these into like JavaScript, you know, const variable declarations. Here, I'll just get out and move it down here. So I want to take all these and turn them into variables. Then I put my cursor here and I'm hitting the letters. I'm just gonna tell you what keys on my keyboard I'm hitting. I'm gonna hit QA, and then I think now I'm defining a keyboard macro in the register A, and I'm going to think about what do I want to do on each line, and I'm going to hit the keys really specifically. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I'm at the beginning of the line. So I'm going to hit 0 to go to the beginning of the line. Then I know that there's an extra space here that I don't want, so I'm just going to hit X to delete forward character. Then I'm going to go into insert mode, and I'm going to type const. And I'm going to go back into normal mode. I'm still recording this keyboard macro, by the way. Then I want to go to the colon. So I'm going to hit F colon to find the next colon. And I know I want to insert a space before it and then go to it again. So I just hit I space and then escape and then L to go to the right. Now I want to turn it into a equal sign. So I'm going to hit R equal sign to replace with the equal sign. And luckily it's already got that semicolon at the end. But flex, I noticed, is not going to be a word. I need it to be a string. So I'm going to hit W to go to the beginning of the next word. Then I'm going to hit, this is where it gets crazy, VIW to select that whole word. Then I'm going to hit Shift S, double quotes, to surround this word with double quotes. And now I'm done with this line. So I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to hit 0 to go to the beginning of the line. I know that I do that at the beginning of the macro, but that's it. So I just did one line, okay? And now I hit Q again to end the macro definition. And now I can run that macro again and again and again. Now I have one error here because VIW didn't do that. But you know, that's easy enough to fix. And if I had a bunch of those to fix, I could write a new macro to fix that. So I've actually done that several times while we've been talking, like, you know, while I was just doing my normal coding things. I tend to do it, you know, quite quickly these days. So yeah, Vim is awesome. You know, Emacs has similar keyboard macro functionality, but when you combine it with the expressiveness, yeah, mouse movements. See, mouse movements is just like that's like the gateway, right? Less like that's how I got into it too. It's like I really am tired of using my mouse, but it turns out that you will just edit things much faster, regardless of your mouse, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I pick out the macro thing as like a specific like example of that power, but those things that I was doing in the middle, like for example, when I did this, right, I selected a specific word and then surrounded it with double quotes. That takes three keystrokes. No, 4. No, 5. VIW Shift S quotes. And I can do that very quickly. So like that is where the real power is with the ability to chain these operations. Then the macro is just icing on the cake, that then if you do it once, you don't have to do it again. That's just icing on the cake. Okay, use ref. Mutable ref object is not an array type. Oh, you don't want this, Right. This is just input ref. Input ref, and this is also just input ref, right? Parameter event explicitly has any type. Right, so here's an annoying thing is that it's unclear what type event should be, but TypeScript is giving me an error that it wants me to type event. So I have to know somehow what type this is going to give me. It seems like I might not be using the same TypeScript engine. Hi, Peter. It's definitely a key down event, yeah, but I don't know how to type that. And I was just describing Papa Bean in the chat is just learning TypeScript. So this is just kind of an obnoxious thing about TypeScript is because it's so specific and helpfully specific, I have to now go figure out how to make an HTML key down event, which might just be called HTML key down event. But I don't exactly remember how to type this. And my TypeScript thing is not telling me, giving me information about this, which I'm confused about. So I feel like I might not be in the right mode. Let me look at another. Okay, so this is TypeScript mode. Let me see what major mode this is. This is TypeScript major mode. And then what major mode is this? This is TypeScript TSX mode. Well, can I just make you TypeScript mode? Uh-oh. Perhaps it's generic. Oh, I'm sure it's easy to figure out, Peter. I got distracted here with my Emacs. It might be generic, yeah. L input is type never. Why is it never? Something is very, very wrong here with what I'm doing. Input ref. If not, if this doesn't exist, then return it. Uh-oh. I messed something up. Maybe I need to tell this a generic. Yeah, I think I need to tell this that it's like a HTML input element. Okay, now it's happier. So this is of type HTML input element. Now it's giving me all this type. So I can say, oh. And it can actually figure out that with type key down, look at how crazy this thing is. Because I passed the string key down into here, TypeScript is able to derive that I want the generic add event listener type with key down, and that the event is a keyboard event. So Peter, you were right. I'm sorry if you were trying to tell me the exact right answer. The question marks threw me. And I appreciate the help. But I just find that fascinating that it was able to figure that out. Okay. Where am I now? Oh yeah, I have to get off soon anyways, but thanks for hanging out, Papa. And welcome to the channel. And welcome to the channel, So Peter, right now, what I'm doing is I've been reading this book, Crafting Interpreters, Bob Nystrom, or yeah, Robert Nystrom or Nystrom, not sure. And I'm making the language that he makes his language in his interpreter in Java, and I've been writing it in TypeScript. And now I'm just trying to make a little browser interface for that interpreter. That's nowhere near done. The interpreter is nowhere near done. The interface is not even begun yet. I'm just getting started here. Okay. Legacy ref undefined. I don't think that I am prepared to figure this out. So this can be undefined. Why? React.legacyRef. I've never seen legacy ref before. Am I unaware of like some update into how refs work? Ref can be no, I don't think that's right, because input ref is not a value that can be null. I don't think. It's not, so it's not input ref, the value itself. Oh, Papo is just talking about learning Angular. Input ref itself is not, like TypeScript says it can't be undefined. It's the generic that can be undefined. So refs are actually a wrapper object around another thing. So the wrapper object itself will never be undefined, but the thing that it wraps around might be. And this is saying that this, like, this is either a legacy ref to an HTML element or undefined. I don't really know. I'm gonna say ref. I'm like gonna auto set this thing and see what happens. Oh, this is not callable. Input ref dot current equals this. Let me try that. Are you okay with that? Okay, so that's the same problem that we had before, which means this is all that was doing internally. So we can now say ref type of, no. If not ref, then, or no, we'll put this on the other side of the equal sign. Not ref, then undefined, otherwise ref. Why don't we make this in the positive? Ref, then you get a ref, otherwise you get undefined. Okay, you seem to be happy with that. Are we getting our console logs? Yes, we're getting our console logs. Look at that. So what are we doing so far? We are adding an event listener for key downs. That event listener just logs the current value. Now, what is value? Value is our use state, which means this set value is working correctly. So that's all well and good. Why don't we say if event.key what is event.key? It's a string. Let's say if it's k, then console.log k. This is the modern way. Yeah, these are React hooks for sure. Okay, we got our special print. What is event.key when I hit enter? Oh, it's capital E enter. So I want to say if enter, then set value to blank. Okay, so when I hit enter here, that didn't work. Key down with value, enter. I was hoping this would be magically work. Oh, it is. It is. Right? It is. If I hit enter here, yeah, then value is blank, even though the whole thing here is, there's still stuff in this string. Now if I hit A, we get the whole thing back because it's taking the entire value of the input and putting it here. So what we need to do at the same time we set value, maybe we don't need to set value, maybe on change will get triggered, but we want to say L input dot value is blank. Now I don't know, let me refresh. I don't know if that did not trigger our on change. If that triggered our on change, we would have gotten this log with an empty value. So let me at the same time clear our value, and hopefully these will remain in sync now. Blue, bell, ABCD, enter. A. I think this is working. It's working well enough. I'm not sure if it's optimal, like I might be doing something extra that I don't need to do, but it's working well enough that I can work with it. So what we'll want to do is to do today. Take value and run it through the interpreter. We also want to, yeah, so reactive stuff is the normal way for handling this stuff in React, and you would just use, like, I would say value is value, because value is my use state. That's how you like hook up these, that's how React hooks are made to work. The problem here is that once you do this, React really doesn't like you messing with like hitting enter, for example. Doing stuff when you hit enter, clearing this value, but using the value of value at the same time gets really, really hairy because you have the tight loop. Like React wants you to have a loose asynchronous loop there. So I just immediately, like, I've just had so many problems with that in the past that I just immediately reached for this system. This is not the normal, like, this is not the happy path for React. This is you want to do something, non-standard with React. Yeah. But definitely that happy path for React is just as easy as Angular for these basic cases. Okay, I am hungry, and we got some good stuff done. So I think I will leave it there. I may be back on this evening, but thank you if you're lurking out there. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the follows, and thanks for the help, Peter. All right. Yeah, thanks, Papa. All right. I think I will just say an abrupt goodbye instead of trying to raid somebody, since I am hungry and I don't want to hang out on somebody else's stream at this very moment. All right. Have a good evening, everybody.